Las Vegas, Nevada is one of the entertainment capitals of the world, and that's why it makes perfect sense for it to be the home of Area 15. So Area 15 is an immersive entertainment district with a growing list of attractions. I was recently at Entertainment Experience Evolution, which was a conference put on by Interface Conference Group. And while I was there, I learned more about what's on the horizon for Area 15. Plus, we heard a bit about the story behind its design. So Area 15 is a joint project between Fisher Brothers and Beneville Studios. So today, we're going to get the latest and greatest right from the source. We're talking with Winston Fisher and Michael Beneville. You're listening to Where We Buy. It's the show where we talk with retail experts and we visit the places where we buy. My name is James Cook. I research retail and real estate for JLL. All right, welcome, Winston Fisher, Michael Beneville. It's so fantastic to have you both here with me today.
Excited to be here. Thank you.
Delighted.
Excellent. Okay, Winston, you're CEO of Fisher Brothers. Winston, how do you describe your role in Area 15?
I really am. I'm the CEO of Area 15. I am very day-to-day hands-on about what's happening. As much as strategy, it's everything from the capital raising, where are we going? What's the platform, right? Ultimately the transformation as we continue to grow. Spend a lot of time in that these days. The curation, as we expand, the leasing, I'm very hands-on in terms of any experience that comes to Area 15. I have to personally inspect, working with the team, and there's a lot of moving parts, right? So it's also making sure really that you have the right team members, frankly, to execute, because it's exciting. It is the amount of things we have going on today is almost overwhelming just because we're growing and we're opening and we're expanding. So it's really exciting.
That's awesome. And so, Michael, you'll say your role is to be creative jam
Winston.
What's that?
Well, there's a concept. I'd say for Michael, there's a whole. It's not that. It's not the day to day in terms of like put something out literally, like where you have your creative director, but this creative vision, the ability to think through the curation and this experience and the vibe. Michael's very intimate, right? And so and Michael can say that it's strategy in many ways.
The thing is that years ago we created a brand, and it is a place, but it's a brand. And our job is to defend that brand and to keep it relevant and real and ever changing and growing. And so that's what it is. We're deep in the weeds right now of District 2, which that's the working title for it, but it's coming. And that, we'll get to more of that in a moment, but it's how do we find the 747, integrate the 747, find all the events, and then really make sure that as we expand and grow, that we're expanding the sort of the creative connective tissue of what Area 15 is to support all the incredible partners and businesses and groups that are coming in. So I'd say that's really the job of it is having enough of the creatives genesis moment together, and then to be able to think through all those things we left on the cutting room floor 7-8 years ago, and to make sure that we are coming back to them. And that's that institutional knowledge is really, really important, because it means that with all the different teams that we have to collaborate with to bring something like this to life, there's a through line and there's a thread and there's a cadence and there's a rhythm. And there's something that hangs together, not just as a disparate collection of things, but actually as one full arc of a story which we are writing every day, creating every day.
All right. So I've been there and I still have a little bit of trouble describing it to people.
But to be clear, we created it and we have a terrible description.
So how do you, so off the top of my head, I would say entertainment district. I would also say it has a lore of its own that you've developed, like a backstory. in the same way that Disney will do with its districts. But it's like a mall. Okay, I was reading articles today. Somebody said, and I don't know if you guys have said this before, but somebody said it's like Burning Man and a mall had a baby.
it, it is actually, it's funny. There's
which is like a wildly horrendous thing.
Right. I mean, oh my God. The thing that I always think that probably best describes this is a cruise ship. Right. And it's just hard to say that because people, when you say like we're a cruise ship on land, but it really is because yes, we're our mall. It's a collection of experiences, but we're not a mall, clearly, right? We're more than that. We're events, we're experiences, we're art, we're attractions, we're shows, we're all these different things. And it's a self-contained environment that has in this case, a defined, if you're going to be a storytelling platform, you need a story. But when you think about a cruise ship, they are floating villages of entertainment and experiences that are branded in their own, Disney, right? It's a very distinct thing. So it's probably the closest to actually what we are. Really is a cruise ship on land, right? Like we're the land.
Yeah, mechanically.
Right. Saturday Night Live. But like, because it is a little bit of everything. I think that's always been the challenge because it is a district, but it's more than a district, right? It's that, like, we're not just Broadway in Nashville or just Bourbon Street, right? There's this emotional connection. So I like the cruise ship reference in many ways. Pretty fantasy. There's nothing really cruise ships. You see some of the builds today. It's pretty insane what they're doing. But we're also a platform. I mean, the way we really also think of ourselves, and I say that's sort of the B2B side of life, is we're a storytelling platform that we allow experiences or brands to tell their story. So that is through a lease, that is through an event, that is through augmented reality video game play and scavenger hunts that take place, right? We sell stories for the consumer to consume.
Yeah, and I think it's important too with the, I wonder if the person who said Burning Man in a mall had a baby, maybe probably has never been to Burning Man. Because if you ever had been, you would know that it's impossible to put something like that into a mall. You would also know that it's a singular thing, even with its regional outgrowths. It's absolutely unique. It's unduplicatable. You can't even make a movie out of it that's relevant because it's 70,000 different experiences in any given year. However, having been there many times, and loving it so much, you can't say that Area 15 would exist if Burning Man hadn't exist. But I don't think you could say Area 15 would exist if Disney hadn't existed. It wouldn't exist if Universal didn't exist.
Right.
Or there's so many different feeders to it. I don't think that there was any one necessarily original thing that we created, except for the formula of combining all of these different things at one moment in time that just intersected with a pulse and a zeitgeist. So every component piece of it has been done before. It's just not been done before in this configuration in this way, and that's its draw. Its appeal. I'd say Area 15 is an invitation to a curious individual who has the ability to experience it and draw their own conclusions about what it is, to answer that very question that you posed to us at the beginning. That's a challenge, but that's kind of why I think people resonate with it. And we don't spell everything out. We don't have it all defined. That's, partly a strategy and partly because we're discovering it about ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. But my background's real estate, right? So I think I naturally default a little bit to thinking of it in that terms. And the reason a mall is actually an important reference point, because you can bristle a little bit at the idea like you're a mall. Well, you start saying, well, we're more than that. But malls work really well. They are a collection of experiences or shops in an area that have concentration and context to what you're going for. There are different types of malls, right? Gucci doesn't really want to be by itself, right? Gucci by itself would actually probably not be a very successful store. Gucci next to Dolce & Gabbana, next to Louis Vuitton is very successful, but that's no different than J. Crew next to Zara, so context is really important. And that's actually something that we've provided Vegas, which people are coming to us because they're in context for experiences, food and beverage, events, experiences. It is, and that's why the term mall is, I think, where people reference us. And that's powerful. You want to be a place that people show up, no different than a theme park. A roller coaster by itself is a standalone roller coaster. If you're at Six Flags, you're millions of visitors a year, or Disney. So that's why we are a concentration.
And the other thing too is the mall wasn't a unique invention. I mean, go to Marrakesh in 1000 AD and you're in a souk, and that's an immersive 100%. Experience as well. Because I think what we've been able to do is to get beyond just the where we buy and into the where we experience. And in fact, I think it's because we were leading with where we experience. When Winston and I were kids, you'd go to the mall and maybe 5% of the place was interested to me.
Oh yeah.
It was like a game shop or something like that. And maybe there was some sculpture that kind of, I'd want to throw a penny into, but 95% of it was just the banality of consumerism. What we did was to flip that on its head and just say, well, let's start with experience. Like right out of the gate, let's do base drop moment feeling of experience. And then as a logical conclusion, maybe people will buy, and we hope that they have to buy actually, because it's a business. But that's that. I think there are precedents. Rome had them too.
Yeah. What's also interesting is we see that inspiration again when you start looking at brands. Right. I've always thought that Nike, Apple did a really good job. Right. They didn't just sell their product; they sold their brand. Right. They sold their experience. So experiences. You see that transformation today. It's not just about selling your product, it's about selling the emotion of the product, the connection and brand values. What we're and people, I think sometimes get confused, but I think that's actually probably when we talk about one of the biggest challenges is we have to deconstruct that idea that it is hard to describe. We are a place that is a collection of businesses that are like-minded for the experience economy that drives significant amount of traffic and purchasing power because it's in context. And it's working. We are very successful. The experiences that are in Area 15 are enjoying financial success. The platform, have ticket bundling because we know consumers want bundles, right? But we're putting it in context. And so that's a really important component. It's not that novel actually. But what we also discovered is people walk the strip. Why do you walk the strip? You walk the strip to get fresh air. You walk the strip to go see a site, go to dinner. You don't walk the strip to find a 3-hour experience, right? So an experience on the strip actually still has to convince people, not just that they see it, but that they're willing to take the time to go to it. That's actually, again, when you take a step back as a mall, as a district, theme park, we're in a place where people are coming to consume and have dedicated their time and wallet share for that segment of spend. And that's also why we're very successful, because we're in the strip bubble, but we're in context. And so that's what really works. So there is a very, I guess, boring, but very straightforward business proposition that is built as the underpinning of what is Area 15. So,
yeah. I think, to your point, I think it's the perfect location. It's for folks that aren't familiar, it's about a mile off the strip. So you're already there.
I want to say it in a different way. We're in the bubble because a mile off the strip doesn't mean anything. We're 5 minutes by Uber from the Wynn.
There you go.
It's longer to go from the Wynn by taxi to the Bellagio. And you see us. We're in the strip bubble, which is really important. 350,000 cars go by us each day. Free parking. We're at the center of Las Vegas for locals. So free to enter. So we're part of that. Sorry to say, it's not just that we're off strip, we're actually part of the ecosystem that defines the strip with proximity that makes it very accessible.
Yeah. And to your point, it's a little bit off. So you do have to go there.
Of course.
And then you're saying, I am entering a new world.
100%.
I think that was my
which
point.
is precisely, which is one of the reasons we didn't come up with the idea and then go searching for land. Winston had the land and we had to come up with an idea. Right. And the idea resonates with a person who might be willing to leave Manhattan on a Friday night and go out to Bushwick to find the music or the experience that they want to find. They're rewarded for that curiosity by finding, following the breadcrumbs out there. We're the same way. And that's why we're not trying to outdo the strip. We came out of a warehouse district. We came out of a place where the Scandia Fun Center used to be, but it wasn't, to break the gravitational pull. And this year, we crossed over to 15 million visitors since we opened. And the first year we were at 20% occupancy. So factor all that in. It's a lot of people who've been willing to make that journey, but that's why our customer is such a phenomenal customer.
So
it's because they're willing to make that journey.
They're willing to make the journey. I'd say there's a few other things I think 2 points that are really important. One is we're the number one convention market in the world. And so we actually have a robust convention business. People are coming, entertainment, event space, our tenants. That's important too, because what we're talking about this business model, our tenants, experiences, food and beverage, they're expected that they're going to tap into that corporate business. And actually there is truly, I would say, Las Vegas is the number one place for corporate business, which is really important. So again, purpose built as this district or space. The other thing that was interesting is this week, we were also listed as the top TikTok space in Las Vegas.
I read that. Yeah.
And that's really, really important. Also Instagram. Think about that, right? So we talk about, are you on strip? Are you off strip? It's irrelevant. We're number one for TikTok. Can a brand be a better place to be than the place that has the most TikTok shares and is driving that kind of organic traffic? So there's a sophistication again of we market at the top of the funnel, our events market, each one of them, our tenants market. But the most important is the organic marketing that's coming from giving this authentic experience that we talk when, what does Michael do? Helps create and curate that authentic artistic experience that people can consume and then amplify digitally and work. And it's not me saying it. The facts are showing you that that's actually why we're number one today.
And it's an asymmetric strategy. We're not trying to outspend or outglitz or outdo. Our friend, my mentor, Bob Pittman, says you outperform the competition with creativity, not dollars. Exactly. And that's a piece of, I think, why we're able to deliver an authenticity is that we are constantly having to think through what's going to be intriguing, what's going to actually reward the person when they get there, rather than just a thing. It's a transformation. It's a resonant something that happens. So that's always been, you can go back to that soup, but if you sat with the guy and drank tea and, bought your carpet or your pottery or whatever afterwards, you feel a deeper connection to the thing that you bought because there's a story attached to it. And we, I think, provide the ability, and TikTok's a perfect example or whatever, of being able to attach a story to the experience that when you share it, doesn't feel like just the banality of that kind of a thing. It actually signals, I know this person. I went and found this place. I discovered it. Maybe that's really what it is. We want the people who visit to feel like they discovered it.
It's something cool. And so the other thing, and I think Michael touched on it a little bit, but is when we started Area 15, one of the questions is relevancy, right? Because the hardest thing is how do you keep driving traffic? How are you relevant in today's world? And there is again strategy behind that tenants, especially, I'll just use Meow Wolf as an example, which is an incredible traffic driver, incredible experience, but they can't change their experience every day, right? At some point, there's a permanency, though they still upgrade, but I think you know what I mean. So relevancy comes from events, right? That we can host, raids.
The Teletubbies
raids. We can have our masquerade party, and we can do all of these different things. But the other thing about relevancy is our art program and the ability that we've built something that is the platform is really an important thing. We've built something that new art or experiences can affordably and easily slip into, and then it changes the experience. So what you're amplifying one day with social media, with a piece of art or a mural or something like that, or an event, then the very next time you come, there's something new to see, right? So building in that relevancy into our platform, basically, which is a content upgrade. We have the ability to upgrade our operating system, so to speak, all the time.
Mm. It's interesting. Here's the artist on the call. When you said art, I thought you were referring to our training.
No,
but that's a huge piece
Right.
of the puzzle, is that our team, the people that make this run every day, the hundreds and hundreds of people, are unbelievably well trained. They are gracious. They are welcoming. They are inquisitive. They are helping. They are everything that you would want. And by the way, I was out at EEE, where we crossed paths again, and speaking to a woman whose whole career and job it is to train people, or to hire people. And she said that it's annoying for her when she's out with her family, because her family is saying she's constantly analyzing the service that's happening. And she came up to me and she said, I just have some feedback about, the Beast, one of our restaurants there. And I thought, oh my God, I'm getting ambushed after coming off stage, and I'm going to get, crucified here. And she said, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe how many touch points there were, how many times the server came back, how many times my water glass was filled, but these are the things that actually really matter. They matter. It can't just be some avant-garde thing that's so highfalutin, and then your food is crappy and the people are rude and all that kind of a thing. We are all about just finding the fun, the family, the everything, and that means for the people who come by day, and then that switch to the people who come by night. And it's a profound switch. We would not believe, it's now, to say a psychographic is not a new thing to say anymore. But back when we started, no one said that we'd be able to achieve something that would be appealing to children and families and grandmothers and all different parts of the political spectrum, all these different things, and then be able to transition over into night to every part. It's because there's a core to it that's magnetic. And as Winston said, it is an operating system, and it's one that we can pivot and dance and jump and move with the
It is
times.
literally a tech operating system, whether it's our connection. We spent a lot of time building. So while we didn't invent the ticketing platform, the connection between ticketing and Square and our other systems. So there is actually a proprietary operating system, so to speak, that powers Area 15 for the experience economy. It's there to also analyze trends, data analytics that we can also help not only ourselves, but our tenants. Because look, at the end of the day, we can talk about all these things. Is your sales per square foot high? Right?
Right.
The answer is we make sure your sales. We have ability for companies to using through advertisement, campus-wide advertisement, but also that is done in an innovative way. Wrap the egg, what you get on the billboard, 350,000 cars, but drive this innovation, get that TikTok experience, which ultimately is all about leading to a higher sales per square foot for every experience. And that's the ultimate goal, because if everybody's successful, we're successful. Right?
And we're learning all the time.
All right, I want to get into the chronological story. Make sure we're telling the story here. So you opened 2021. Am I right about that?
2020.
Okay, 2020. First, splashy
middle of COVID.
Best time to do it. That's actually when I visited. Was after your first big anchor, which is Meow Wolf.
Yep,
opened.
That was in February 21.
Okay, so I think I was there in March 21.
Right.
So pretty early on. So that first big building, what is that, 200,000?
200,000 square feet.
Square feet. It's like an industrial building, right?
Yeah.
On the outside.
But it was purpose built. It's designed to be a bunker.
It's perfect for that. So tell folks that aren't familiar a little bit about the curation of who are the tenants in that first phase.
Yeah. Look. So we started as a 200,000 square foot box, right? And the box has really three components, which is what we call retail. So this is the experiences, events, which is we've touched about, and then we have attractions. So an overhead powered zip line, all these fun, this talking brain, all these different fun things. The idea was, again, I'd say mall inspired is if you're going to build a 200,000 square foot box, you need an anchor tenant, right? So if you're claiming to be, and you want to be, the world's leading immersive entertainment platform district, you need the right anchor experience. Let's fast forward. Meow Wolf, right? Met them, great relationship, and great relationship. So the ability to get them to be our anchor experience was really huge, right? Because, and we saw, I mean, people back then, I'd say they were known, but I wouldn't describe them as well known as today, right? We took a risk on them, and they took a big risk on us. But getting them then allowed us to think about the other curation, the virtual reality. And we wanted something for everybody. Getting 5 Iron Golf as an example, right? People, how's that work? Well, they do street, they do, you know, they're kind of a little hip for golf and everything like that, but it's a different segment. We got the Barcade, Asylum, we picked, Wink World. So you start to see there's this trend around like kind of immersive, experiential, the Beast restaurant, which we had. So it was just curating best in class experiences.
And that part that was a nod to the mall also intersected with the other side of the business, which is, you know, we were sitting there thinking of how we would make this building look. And then it occurred to us, we're going to throw a warehouse party. Let's build a warehouse. Let's get that up and out.
Yeah. And it was, I'd say this is the district. We're starting with a new concept. You can imagine we're sitting around, Michael and I were talking, we got all this, tried to leasing. Hey, have this box, right? God. So we built the marketing center, but I'd say we really went after experiential tenants in that space.
Well, and by the way, too, I can well remember a meeting about 5 months before opening with the leasing team where Winston was slamming his, hand on the table and saying, I don't understand how we're 5 months from opening and we're still, we still have 60,000 square feet to lease or 100,000 square feet to lease, something like that. And the team looked back at him and said, well, but in fairness, Winston, you and Michael have said no to, at least that much
you have
stuff.
to.
So it's not like everything can just be at an area 15. It can't. And that is the challenge, really. When we were going to look for anchors at the beginning, there just weren't that many things out there at all. You had Team Labs in Japan, you had Meow Wolf, you had, Call It Sleep No More in New York, or precedent, but it wasn't as if there was an immersive economy. Now there's a great deal more. Well, it's still a small
I'd say we've
sector.
also expanded. So when we start the box, you have to be, there's this rigorous curation. And so Meow Wolf and I'll use 5 Iron as an example, because they're a little more mainstream traditional, but they understood the power of what Meow Wolf was bringing. Dueling Axis was the same way, right? They got it. But the box, which had to be this sort of gritty, authentic art experience economy, then allowed, because ultimately we have 80 acres of land. They're not creating 1 million, 2 million square feet of, I'm going to call it art forward space. That's just not, Michael touched on it, doesn't exist, and nor is that actually appropriate. But this idea behind Area 15 was get the 200,000 square feet leased, operated, kind of blowing people's mind. And then that actually gives flexibility for the brand, the platform, to actually start curating different types of experiences, different segments, more mainstream, different themes. So, Universal, which is huge validation just to start with. But that's a horror experience. Then we have Museum of Ice Cream in there, Felix and Paul, which is a space experience. So you're starting to see
John Wick coming,
right?
open now.
You see more mainstream IP, but you also start to see a different type. We're always cognizant to curate to different segments and profiles. We have Dolls Kill. Traditional retail, by the way, is hugely important for us. We talk a lot about experiences, but part of experiences is shopping, right? So we're picking that. We're also getting those types of experiences or those types of tenants coming.
And I have to say, when golf was first being brought into the picture, the part of me that had, thought of this always as, well, however, whatever the limitations of my thinking had been, I realized, or I was, tested to accept, okay, yeah, look, if you're going to say you have an open platform to make things, then you really do have to stand by that. So how does this fit? And by God, it really fits. And it really fits because some, gal and guy with the golf culture walking in it 11 o'clock in the morning with no interest at all about all the other things that are going on. And yet, by the experience of being there, they find out that they actually do
Or they're
have
buying the
interest
house,
in it.
right? So
And
it's the idea that we are a storytelling platform. The whole thing is curating. We call them districts. They'll be called something else as we redo our website. But it's this concept of really creating these themed environments. So we're looking at different themes, right? It can be, you can imagine anime, or right, you can imagine. I don't want to give away too much, but there's different. You start to think that there are different segments of experiences, retail, high end, mid level, whatever, that curated correctly, they play off of each other. And so,
and then,
no,
well, and anybody who thinks that, oh, well, it was this way at the beginning, but now it's done X, Y, and Z to grow. No, this was always part of the plan. It's not as if we thought, oh, we're going to always do that. There's no always or regimented thing that Area 15 is.
And interesting, exactly right, is because we're starting to have conversations also with larger brands, larger experiences where the Strip is amazing. And one of my favorite corners is where you got the Statue of Liberty and you got a castle and see the tower and you're like, where am I? But it also is specific to their way of curating. A brand like Universal or John Wick, we built the Vegas Continental. It actually looks like the Vegas Continental from the outside, and it feels like where it should be. Now take a large IP holder or a large brand that says, I want 2, 3, 4, 500,000 square feet of space that there's value in being part of the district of Area 15, but there's identity that they can bring to life in a way that we actually encourage them to be creative. In fact, I'd say not even encourage, we require. We are
absolutely demand it.
Yeah, and that's why you're the number one TikTok place. So brands, experiences, whether traditional retail, food and beverage, experiences the way we're describing, there's no other place in a city of 42 million visitors with the number one convention center that you have this explosion of creative energy that your brand can actually define itself totally uniquely with the most amount of eyeballs. And that's really cool. That's the defined strategy behind it.
So we talked about, so there's the John Wick experience. That's the newest big thing that's now open, right?
Zach, it can hardly keep
yeah, I know, right?
I have to give a nod to Illuminarium. They just relaunched.
Illuminarium, yeah.
Illuminarium has this experience by Rolling Stone magazine, which is, to me, it leads me wanting to go back because it's really the history of fans, of rock and roll, of Rolling Stone magazine, all the covers. And like, what I love about that is it's not to say a 22-year-old can't enjoy it. Of course they can, because music is music and they've got Snoop Dogg in it. But it really is that sort of 30 to 55-year-old, 60-year-old who's like coming in and getting this incredible journey of the Rolling Stones legacy that takes you through. So totally different segments. So that's super cool. That's just open. You got Universal coming, Horror Unleashed, which is opening in August. We've got a nightclub experience called Odyssey that's going to be opening, an underground rave. We cannot be Tao, we cannot be Marquee, we can't be Zook. But man, we can throw a badass underground warehouse party that nobody else will touch, right? And like, where are you going to party in a different way? Like, you can do that at Area 15. So we've got all these experiences that are coming.
That's so
it's
cool.
This is going to be a hell of a year.
Yeah.
This is actually the lull. We're going to hit a cadence here. August, September, October, November, December. It's just
it was our quietest year in terms of opening stuff, which was just giving way to what is honestly 25.
What's the doubling size of the campus?
27 is insane. And again, we're 30 of 80 acres. So, we're in discussions, but who knows? Look, these things are big, but really excited about this idea of building more neighborhoods, districts, of entertainment zones that are appeal to a different segment, but also play off of each other, right? Because you have that.
Yeah.
It's like we're an open source Disney World, right? I mean, what you want to call it.
I love it.
And that's it exactly too. I said earlier, it's an invitation to our our client, our visitor, it's also an invitation to these brands and businesses to say, what would you do differently and how would you do it here? And that's been what's really exciting. Is back in the day, we had to go out and convince people that this would happen, and everyone looked like we had 7 heads, and what the hell are you talking about? Now it's wonderful because people are coming to us.
Well, the riskiest thing you can do is copy everybody. Then you're in the worst place to be for a brand today is in the middle. You want to be in some place that allows your brand to celebrate it, which includes how your storefront is done. What's the experience, right? Look, we're willing to take risks because not every experience works either, right? We accept that, right? If we want to be at the front edge of the experience economy, we'll bring some stuff in. And it's not just experiences. We're talking about doing things like we've incubated ideas, right? Helping brands, sponsorship, whatever, incubate concepts. Think about like innovation in our space. You can test it and then you can take it out. John Wick is that, right? We are the first Vegas Continental built. It's really, really exciting, right? Where could that go? Who knows, right? But the point is,
or something like Kaya, our that Kaya food offering, that's totally originated from inside the company. That's something which a group could come along and say, hey, we'd love to roll those out to 70, 100,000 locations, whatever it is.
Exactly.
Oh, something I want to make sure we hit. Yeah. Recently in the news, and this made a lot of news, is a big 747 being driven down the streets of Las Vegas from, you guys are going to have to give me the details, but what are you doing with the 747? How did you get it? How did you move it? And what's the point of having it at Area 15?
We're standing on the shoulders of giants with that 747 because it has passed through many incredible hands. First of all, commissioned in 1970, whenever, and it flew the world. I mean, imagine how much Chateaubriand and champagne was, consumed in those days. But it's been a twinkle in our eye for a long time. I first encountered that particular 747 and Winston too, at the incredibly audacious and brilliant group that went out to Burning Man decided that they would achieve the impossible and bring a 747 out to Burning Man, which is nuts. And it had all kinds of drama and everything all associated with it as
it should.
As things out there. As it should.
As it should.
Conversation that's happened. That's right. And then I was looking at it, tried to get it to, baked into a different project, something down in Austin, and that was going to cost $1.5 million to move it. It's expensive to move a 747 when it doesn't fly. So then we wanted it for Area 15, but it was available, but it wasn't to be. We couldn't prioritize it with the opening of the first building, and it was going to be extraordinarily expensive. Tony Hsieh, the amazing, brilliant Tony Hsieh, actually brought it down to Vegas with the ambition of including it in the downtown district, which is what a gift to Las Vegas he was. And so that's as far as it got. And then he tragically, of course, passed away. It was sitting at the Speedway, and it was close enough to us to think, well, maybe we'll give it I think it'll be its final resting place, but we shall see.
I mean,
we're going to shout out to all those different groups.
Challenges. Well, spectacle sells, right? The unexpected really sells, right? Whether it's a 747, whether it's a 50-foot long, 13-foot tall fire truck, whether it's an abandoned airplane shell that we found online, right? This idea that you have a 747 that is an experience, a restaurant, a place to eat, right? Because that's ultimately its home. Its repurposing will be attached to a building on the second floor, coming out of the building, where you'll have this incredible experience. There'll be DJs playing underneath it, but inside of it will be, a restaurant style experience that's fun to eat at and connected. And so that part in some sense is traditional, but it's very cool. And by the way, we're talking to people right now, so open for leasing. But what's really important is this is actually getting back to, you're going to come on the campus, you see this bunker, then you see the Vegas Continental. We're going to have psychedelic shuttles that take people back and forth. And you come to District 2, you've got Horror Unleashed. We've got a whole carousel that's our version of we have a whole mystical energy A15. It's exploded into this carousel, and there's these crazy figurines that you ride around on, and then you get to 747 Plaza. And like, you got a 747 coming out of the building, right?
By the way, a 747 on its wheels there is 31 feet tall. It's as tall as the first building.
It's huge.
It's such an
so
incredibly
big.
huge.
No
It's like
one's done-
22 feet wide, you know? It's
But if you
bonkers.
think about it, I've always been inspired by something in Vegas, which was Vegas was a city that sold spectacle. It did a great job. I mean, actually, thank God Vegas had that segment of its development where you did pick the Bellagio fountains and this inspired and Treasure Island, and you have, you know, Paris. Like, I think that doesn't get talked about. We have an Eiffel Tower in Las Vegas, and we have a castle,
incredible.
and we have the Statue of Liberty. It's important that Vegas doesn't lose that, because that's actually something that probably scares me the most about Vegas is a race to the same, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see how that happens, right? Architecture starts to look the same. It's just different shades. The Sphere is wonderful, right? Oh my gosh.
God, that's a great addition.
It's a great addition. And inside is cool, but outside, help find the skyline again, right? Now we have a Sphere to look at that is mind-blowing. So I think it's important that, look, in our own small contribution, now you've got this district of this backstory, creative energy, and airplanes coming out of things and trucks that are weird that don't belong there. That's our way of giving a nod to Vegas's history as a place of authentic fake, right?
Authentic fake.
Right.
Okay, this is a whole another podcast, but the old concept of authenticity, I think, is highly debatable.
Well, Vegas is authentic to who it is. It's not authentic. It's not trying that the Statue of Liberty is clearly not Liberty. That's not what it's trying to do. But it's because it's actually next to the castle, across from lions. That's the whole point of
it's the juxtaposition of all of
It's
these
the fantasy
crazy
world
things that makes it all work.
And Vegas does best when it's a fantasy world of spectacle and wonder. And the 747 is are many different things, but it's just meant to be part of that spectacle and wonder that has helped define this city.
I love it.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time, but I want to let folks know. So Universal Horror Unleashed is going to be the next big, I'd say, anchor, right?
Yes.
So is that opening this summer?
That opens in August.
Okay, that's opening in August. John Wick is open. That's a big deal. Everybody's talking about that.
Run, don't walk.
Yeah, it's real.
Yeah. Any other big ones we should hit before?
Before we close look, Illuminarium I mentioned, which is really cool. We've got our nightclub experience, Odyssey, which is coming, which we're really excited about. And then over the next, Felix and Paul is going to be opening up their group out of Montreal. They're building the Space VR experience, high throughput, which their commitment to excellence is second to none. It's going to be we obviously know it, really great space experience, which is coming. So that got the carousel, all of this for the 25, and the Museum of Ice Cream is happening in 26.
Oh, wow. That's big.
Yeah. Museum of Ice Cream's big. And there again, what they want to build, badass, excuse me. It's like super cool. And again, female demographic, we do great with the family market during the day. So, Dollars Kill is opening up great with festival and nightlife brand with everything we're doing. So I know they're going to be, I think they're doing some collaborations in the district and stuff. So
we've got donuts, you've got all kinds of, you fill in all the blanks.
And we have,
I love it.
We've got, we have one of the premier spaces, which we're using for Army of the Dead with Netflix. And we have some warehouse spaces, the main building, right? We call it Warehouse 3, right next to John Wick, right by the drop-off is 30,000 square feet. So we're in discussions with people. But to me, that might arguably, is one of the best locations on the entire campus. So we're trying to figure out what to put there for 30,000 square feet. 1, 2, 3 experiences. So
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And this is an Inside Baseball real estate podcast. So folks who are interested, Fisher Brothers, reach out.
Exactly. There's space. It's got to be competitive socializing, food and beverage. We really need a large restaurant, like a brownie or something that is big,
Food.
Probably the one thing I'd say we're missing is that like 15 to 20,000 square foot mind blowing food experience, right? You got to, a long time ago, there was a group out of San Diego that had a great brewery concept we wanted to get, and we just couldn't land them. But like something like that, if we could find, a brewery or somebody who wanted to do something big would be it's high on our list.
That's awesome. All right. Well, Winston, Michael, thank you so much for joining me on Where We Buy today. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you. Such a pleasure being.
Such a pleasure. Can you tell we're excited?
Yeah. Okay. If you like this podcast, do me a favor, go into the app that you're listening to right now and give us a rating, or even better, just give us a review and write a sentence, just one thing that you liked about the show. It helps others find us. You can subscribe to Where We Buy on the iPhone podcast app. We're on Spotify. We're basically any place that you can listen to a podcast, you will find Where We Buy. We're also on the web at wherewebuy.show. Now, if you've got a specific question about retail, shopping centers, or retail real estate, feel free to connect and message with me on LinkedIn. Just search for James Cook, JLL. And our theme music is Run in the Night by the Good Lords under Creative Commons license.